Hey guys, so for today's video, I knew that I wanted to do another marker illustration. So this is my second completely done in marker and ink illustration on marker paper. Only my second one of all time. So that will lead into our topic of discussion a little bit later on. But for now, I wanted to start us off by talking a little bit about the illustration itself. This was a character concept that I was working on in my sketchbook. I like to draw a lot of fantasy things, and I like to draw a lot of characters. And so the idea behind this character was that they had some sort of fire magic power. I didn't really go completely in depth into how their magic worked or the whole extent of it, but stylistically this is very different than anything I've done on this channel before, so I thought I would give that a little bit of an explanation. Now, my main issue that I had with this illustration was that with my markers, I don't have a lot of warm colors. I wanted to create this character inspired by fire, but I have mostly blues. And the only really reddish, pinkish color is the one I used for the hair and later on in some aspects of the outfit. So I ended up using the blues to try to complement the orange of the hair. And blue and orange are complementary colors, so it kind of worked out, but I still feel as though I could do the character better justice with a different color palette. But this sort of leads us into today's topic of discussion, which is making mistakes in your artwork and why that's actually important and not something to be ashamed of. Now, I will be the first to admit that this is very, very difficult. I am a perfectionist through and through. I don't like when things don't turn out the way that I expected them to. I'm not a very go with the flow kind of person. I'm very strategic in the way that I approach things, and sometimes that makes art difficult, especially when things don't go the way that I expected them to. But as I have evolved as an artist and gotten better, I've realized that making mistakes in art is not something to be ashamed of, and it's actually really important to the development of your skills. The main way that this fits in is that you learn things. Mistakes are one of the strongest ways to make sure that something stays ingrained in your memory. You learn what works when you make mistakes, and you learn what doesn't work. I have analyzed this piece after the fact, and I think there are some things that do work about it. I think although it doesn't complement the character concept, I think the color palette does work. I also like the way that the folds of the jacket ended up working out, and I like the hands, and the hair complements the character. But as far as mistakes go, I do think I had my fair share of those in this piece as well. Part of that has to do with the fact that I don't work with markers very much, and that is something that I want to change. I want to start using my markers more, perhaps investing in a few warm colors so I can create characters with different personalities than I'm used to. But I think one of the main issues with this character was that I didn't know how to do a character concept in the context of a marker illustration and also just on a separate piece of paper. I've done a lot of character illustrations before. I have several characters that I actually would like to do a graphic novel with eventually. But the thing is, I don't use separate pieces of paper for full body character designs very often. And I especially don't do it with markers. If anything, I do it with ink and watercolor. And I think that comes with practice. I think the mistake here comes in the fact that I don't know how to make a background with markers, or even if I should make a background with markers, or if I should just leave the character design by itself. In this context of this piece, I did cut off this character's feet, and that was not necessarily a purposeful decision. It was more along the lines of, if I wanted to keep the proportions of the body correct and not squish the character, I had to cut it off or risk the legs being too short. So I need to work on proportioning things better and thinking more ahead. And I think when you analyze something that you've done and you realize the mistakes that you've made, it helps you in the future. So I've made these assumptions or these observations about this piece of artwork. It didn't really turn out the way I had envisioned it in my head, but I've learned a lot just from the actual process of creating this piece. And for a little while there, I thought about giving it up. I thought about just letting this one slide. I want to further discuss that topic at a later date, probably even in the next video. I'm not sure exactly when, but soon, because I have another piece I did that I almost gave up on, and I don't know why I've been doing that so much lately, but I want to try to further convince myself that not to give up on things. Because when you give up on things, then you have no chance of figuring out what actually works. I almost gave up on this piece when I realized that I had no reds or yellows or anything to complement that fire appearance. But if I had done that, I would not have come up with this color palette. Another thing about making mistakes is that I think it helps you to relax a little bit more in the context of illustration. And if you are watching me at all on Instagram, you'll know that this has been something I've been thinking about heavily the past few weeks, is how my perfectionism sometimes gets the better of me, in the fact that I let it control how I feel about things. So I don't want art to stress me out, but when things don't turn out the way that I want them to, I get this overwhelming stress about art. And I've really been trying to work on finding ways of making it more relaxing to me. So I hope that this video was helpful to you in some way, and that you will be less worried about the mistakes that you make in your artwork, because in the end, it's only going to make you a better artist. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye.